Well, hello, beautiful people of the internet. It's Chris Wood from Rising Phoenix Mental Health Channel. And today I'm going to talk about relapsing.
Well, this is gonna hurt like a mother.
It is a beast. It really is. And first of all, what I wanna really get out there is anyone that is currently going through a relapse and is struggling, I want you to know that it's okay. This is part of your journey. It really is. And addiction isn't easy. You have it for the rest of your life. It's chronic. It's not going anywhere. Relapsing is just another stepping stone in your recovery process. So it's okay. It really is okay. Don't beat yourself up. I know it's easy for me to say because I'm sitting over here telling you not to beat yourself up, but from someone that is addicted to alcohol, addicted to exercise, and anything else that may come into play, it's going to happen. It may not happen. You may be a lucky one where you don't ever have to face relapsing, but there's quite a few of us that do. And I want you to know that you're not alone. And I'm going to be putting some links down below that for anyone from the United States or Canada, they can click on those websites and they can get hotline information so that they can get help right away. I actually want you to know that this video is not just for addicts, but it's also for family and friends of addicts. There's going to be information down there for family and friends. They can click on that same link as well to get more information. But hopefully I'm able to provide some information to you all that will help. And you know what? If you have any comments or suggestions, please write them below as well. I do respond to all the comments. So what I want to do is I want to touch upon the stages of relapse so that family and friends can have an idea as to what they can expect to prevent this from happening, as well as it also provides some information to addicts. It may be a refresher that you can utilize as well. So there's 3 stages to relapsing. The first stage is emotional. Emotional relapse would be all those feelings that you have that are bottled up inside, that are packed on, and eventually this is what happens. You implode, right? These emotions are usually made up of old behaviors, things that, events and situations that we have lived through, that we have been taught by our guardians or parents, and what we believe to be true in our subconscious mind. So it may not even be a situation that you actually know you're doing it. And that's why it's important that friends and family are aware so they can pick up on these symptoms. So emotional relapse is the first stage. Basically, what that means is when you're feeling extremely anxious, when you're feeling depressed, when you feel pitiful or ashamed, when you're feeling like you have zero patience, or you're extremely angry, any of those negative emotions that come up and they keep coming up, that is a warning sign for someone that is in the midst of relapsing. If you start to isolate, if you're avoiding the people that are your support system, you're not talking to anybody, you're sticking to yourself, that's a pretty good indicator right there. If you happen to have started a hobby in your recovery and you have suddenly stopped, or you're not interested, or if you have hobbies throughout your recovery that you had sort of before all this happened, and you're continuing to do them because you love them and they keep you whole and whatnot, you stop doing that stuff, that's another pretty damn good indication that you are in emotional relapse. There's something that I learned in treatment, and it's an acronym called HALT. H-A-L-T. H standing for hungry, A standing for angry, L standing for loneliness, and T standing for tired. If you have all of these things, or if you have even one or two of these things and you don't do anything about it, this is all part of the emotional relapse. Now, I'm not talking about, okay, you're hungry, your tummy's rumbling, that sort of thing, and you haven't eaten today. I'm talking about this is something that's been going on for a while. You're hungry, you're pissed off, or you're lonely. And, this is where some of these other emotions come into play, of you being ashamed and depressed and that sort of thing. So your emotional relapse is the first thing that happens. The second thing happens is your mental relapse. And the mental relapse, basically what you're doing is you're struggling, your mind is struggling between things were a lot better when I was drinking. Don't you remember when? All the good times that you had when you were drinking. How it made you feel. And I'm not talking about the after effect. I'm talking about during. How you changed your state of being, your state of emotions changed, and you felt so much better. When you're relating to your addiction as in a positive manner, that is mental relapse. And what you're doing is you're like a yo-yo. It's basically struggling from wanting to drink and not, I shouldn't drink. I want to drink, I shouldn't drink. And that's what your mental state is doing. The last stage is physical. And really what physical is that you just go back to your addiction, whatever that is. Sometimes life is great, and sometimes life is not so great. And that's what life is about, really, So you go through those stages, those emotions, your mental capacity, your mental state, and then the physical relapse. This can happen very quickly too. It could be something that it could be a traumatic event, a tragedy, and depending on the flush of emotions that you're having, could depend on really what you're going to do next. So what are you going to do next? That's the question. And this is something that I want family and friends to really listen up here. It's important that you are aware so that you can help your loved one in this situation. You kind of want to have a plan in place, whether you write it down or you write it down in your journal, or you write it down and you put it on your cork board in your office or your fridge or wherever you want to put it. A list of people that you trust, that you can call when you're feeling like you are going to relapse. That could be anybody. It could be family, it could be friends, it could be a colleague at work, it could be medical support, if you have an addictions counselor, psychologist, a psychiatrist, whatever the case may be. But have that list so that you can call. As well as you want to, if you don't have anybody that you really can, that you connect with, that you can call, that you feel comfortable enough to just pick up the phone and be courageous and pick up the phone and call. If you don't have anybody like that in your life, you can still get some help. And that's why I'm going to put the websites down below that you can click on, and it gives you all the information that you need. It doesn't matter what kind of addiction you have. What you need to know is that you click on one of those websites, whether you're in the United States or Canada. I'm sorry, I didn't go all over the world here. It's not that difficult to get the information on the World Wide Web. If you really need to get some contacts or numbers or whatever you need to do in order to prepare yourself, if you're feeling like you're going to go back,
Let me put it in a language you can understand.
If you're going to relapse. And then once you're talking to that person, whoever that might be, you can sort of think about, why am I feeling this way? What has happened in my life or what has been happening in my life that has drawn me to want to pick up or drink? What is pulling you towards your addiction? You gotta dive in, guys. You've got to be vulnerable. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to ask for help. It's so hard to ask for help.
Oh, hell no!
What do you need to do? You need to step up. Have the courage to call somebody that you trust, or call somebody that's third party that has no idea who you are, what you do, what your life is like, any of that stuff. Just to call someone, to talk to someone. That is key. And while you do that, you can talk to that person about why you're feeling the way you are. You have to let that. You really do. Guys and gals, addiction is chronic, meaning it's not going away. You have it for life, and it makes it so much more difficult to get back on track on the road of recovery after you've relapsed. It's a process, it's a journey. One of the reasons why it's so difficult to get back on track is that there's this huge desire to continue. And why is that? Because all those feelings are gone, or they've been numbed out. Thank you very much, alcohol. Let me tell you a little bit about my journey. I am a newly retired police officer. I retired on a disability for PTSD, depression, and general anxiety disorder. It's been about a 2 to 2.5 year journey at this point, from the time that I got really sick. I was in the police force 18 and a half years or so, in around there. And I did half of my career was in the high Arctic, which is where all of my trauma is from. And my trauma is basically from incidents that had happened that I had to deal with at work, whether I was a supervisor or I was the investigator. So I just pushed stuff away, pushed it away. It wasn't easy working in really, really remote, isolated communities. But I truly love my career, for sure. I didn't deal with the trauma, and what I did is instead was I drank. And it was a numbing feeling for me. It just took things away. I wasn't thinking about things. my memory, my short-term memory was awful. So when I was actually in specific states, and where I would forget where I was going. I would be in a house, a residence, whatever that might be, and I audit my subconscious mind takes over, and I think I'm back at another incident at another time, and all those feelings would come back up again. I was what is considered to be a functional addict. And if it wasn't, like I said, if it wasn't alcohol, it was exercise. But I functioned. I was able to do my job. I was able to manage and supervise. I was able to carry on investigations. I was your high flyer, go, 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 the person that can be counted on to get it done. A great team player, always there. But when I wasn't in my uniform, when I wasn't at work, I drank. About 2.5 years ago, things started happening that were strange to me. I was starting to realize that my short-term memory was really, really bad.
This is the worst.
It wasn't a situation where I went up to go do something and I forgot what it was, and then I would come back to wherever I was and try to remember. You know how you do that sometimes? You go, okay, well, I'm going to just go back to where I was at the time where I had that thought, and hopefully it'll come back. My focus was brutal. To be able to focus on a task, it would take me so much longer than the average person, or like, you know, when I was actually somewhat healthy, to do. And you know what? Nobody knew. That's because of the stigma behind mental health. At that point, I didn't realize I was addicted to anything, really. I just thought, this is what I do to make me feel better, and that's it. And I'm not changing that. It makes me feel better, so I'm going to keep doing this. The problem is that everything just happened all at once because I ignored the warning signs. At that point in my life, my son was 7. I would yell, I would scream at my son. My son being a 7, 8 years old, just being a regular 7, 8-year-old boy, and I had no patience, and I would explode. I would yell at him. The biggest thing is I was keeping everything inside. I really didn't want to admit that I had PTSD. I didn't want to admit that I was using alcohol or exercise or whatever it might be in order to numb that pain. I didn't want to. I just blocked it out. I put it on a shelf, left it, put it in a box, and put it up there on a top shelf, push it way back. And then after that, after, having, maybe a couple weeks to a month of forgetting things like on a regular basis, not being focused, it's like my brain is saying, okay, you know what? You're not getting this. So we're going to just throw some because if you don't deal with this, you're going to die. That's just the way it is. So wake up. I started having flashbacks, and it was like a movie going off and just playing these clips over and over and over again. Short-term memory. I had little focus, not on tasks. I had nightmares. I had flashbacks. So what did I do? I drank more. Because what came from that was insomnia, because I didn't want to sleep because I had nightmares. So I had a drink if I wanted to sleep. And then I asked for help. I was in a 20-foot trench with water up to my hips. It's pouring rain. I'm the only one in there. And all these monsters and demons and whatnot are coming for me. And I can see them. And I have no idea how I'm going to get out of this. That's where I was. It was pure desperation. And I didn't have anybody that I really felt that I could talk to. And the reason being for that was I was so ashamed. I was so hard on myself. I didn't want people to think that I have PTSD, right? I didn't want them to think that at all. I got some help. I started getting some therapy, and it got a lot worse. It got a lot worse because now I knew that I had PTSD because I was diagnosed with it, and I just didn't. I fell apart. I fell apart because I was in fear of everything. I was in fear of losing my career, not going forward on my career. So I had a fear of losing my career. I had a fear of losing my family. I had a fear of losing my identity. So what did I do? I drank some more. So I, at this point, did not think I had an addiction. I just knew that, hey, drinking helps. My anxiety, my anxiety was really bad. I was having anxiety attacks like every day, 2 times a day or more. I was very agitated, so things would just hit me a lot more than they would have beforehand. My hypervigilance, guys, like way up there. And it was like where you had fingernails going down a chalkboard. That's what it felt like. And I was in that state. That's what I was feeling. And it was an awful, awful feeling. So to go to talk to, at this point, this is pre-COVID, go and talk to your family doctor to get medication or a doctor's note or what. It took everything in me to do that because my hypervigilance was so bad. I thought everybody was against me. Everybody was going to hurt me. I had to pay attention to every little detail. But it was also being a police officer. I am watching like even more so, I'm watching their hands, seeing if they have any weapons. I would literally tag somebody up and down to check them out just to see if they have anything that may hurt me. Noises, all kinds of oh, guys, it's endless. It was awful. It was such an awful feeling. Alcohol to me was the only way to get away from that. That's what I thought, as well as taking the Ativan and the clozapam. That helped as well. But what I would do is I combine them. I would combine them, and I would drink, and I would have this medication because it was helping me. I would pass right out, or I might not. I still might not sleep, but at least I wasn't feeling those feelings. I would go and do CrossFit, I would go on hikes feeling like this. Binge. I'm a binger. So I might not drink a lot, right? I may not drink a bottle of rum, like a 40 ounce or a 26 or rum, we'll say, every night. I may not do that. But what I'll do is I'll have 3 or 4 hard drinks, and then I'm at that point where I'm feeling pretty intoxicated. I'm numbing things. I don't numb things anymore. That's when things started to get really, really scary, because instead of feeling numb, what was happening is my emotions were starting to come out. I've relapsed twice, and I got to a point where I had major suicidal ideation. I was committed many times. The longest was 7 weeks. Both relapses I had, I was suicidal. I attempted. And that's where alcohol brought me. You have to be vulnerable. You have to step up. You have to trust someone, whoever that might be, and talk to that person about how you're feeling. The great thing about vulnerability is it connects you to self, but it also connects you to others. It's huge, huge. It's the biggest step to make, but it's the easiest step to make, but it is the most difficult step to do because of our old behaviors, right? We don't want to feel ashamed. You don't want people talking down to you. You don't want to be looked at as a different person now because, you know, you were looked at as this person, but now she's got PTSD or she's got depression or God, she's suicidal. You don't want people to know that. Nobody had a clue at work that I was going through all this. I did my job, and when things came up that kind of raised an eyebrow, I didn't talk to anybody. I was afraid to. I really was. The stigma is so huge, like I said, in law enforcement. And I'm only going to speak of law enforcement, but it's so huge that there was no way. The risk outweighed the opportunity to get help. So I've talked about some heavy stuff. I hope I've kept it somewhat light. It is such an important topic. I really wanted you to know some of my story, and so that you have an idea, like, look, you know what? I've relapsed. It was fucking hard, but I was able to move forward. I have learned through my journey that I'm a decent human being. I am so much more aware of who I am and why I act the way I do, that when I'm having triggers and whatnot, I'll say 70%, 75% of the time, I'm able to utilize some kind of coping tool, and then I will talk to somebody about how I'm feeling. Do me a favor and just look at those websites that I put down there, take down the information, get yourself a plan, talk to somebody, and it's okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to ask for help. For family and friends out there, I can't imagine how difficult it's got to be. And my heart goes out to you. Oh, it's not an easy thing. But it is very possible to recover. And to recover in a state where you have a plan, you have a support system, you have everything there. So God forbid that stuff happens, you're good. One more thing that I want to mention is I'm going to put a list of meditations down below as well that I found to be very helpful. I think one of my saving graces is having faith that you will make it, that I will make it. Another thing that has worked for me is being grateful for what you have. And it really puts you in a different state. You know, I mean, right now I'm thinking about what I'm grateful for, and I'm pretty blessed. So I hope you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in this beautiful world. And please be safe.